This season 2 of The Innovator, Kitchen's Brian George discovered tech-based ways of controlling gambling addiction. Take a look.
When gambling was first known to man, history records it was meant for entertainment and recreation. Over time, it was monetized and casinos were the mainstay for gamblers. Today, gambling is closer home and much easier, right there on your mobile phone. That's where the rain started beating. Convenience turned to habits, and habits turned to unsustainable addictions, where money is spent in the chase for fortune, and latent hope exists when losses are made in the hope to make a buck or two. And the cycle continues. Jack Simons, co-founder of Gamban application, observed this and thought there had to be a better way.
I found that quitting gambling was a very difficult thing to do using willpower alone. I needed something that would allow me to create some friction between the urge to gamble and the action of gambling. And what we quickly found is that there was appetite for this in all around the world. And lots of people would contact us to say, is there a way that we can modify this slightly to protect so-and-so? So the wonderful Weldon Koros at the Responsible Gambling Federation of Kenya got in touch with us, and we've really been working on driving this forward to help people in Kenya who are gambling. You know, we're seeing underage gambling, black market gambling, and of course regulated gambling.
And that's where Gamban application was born. The app helps block and control gambling applications for extreme cases of very addicted gamblers. One such person is Patrick Mudhoka Mwashigadi, a fourth-year student at Kenyatta University who struggled with gambling addiction.
Nilikuwa first year, second year. Naweza sema I used to do responsible gambling. And then when the pandemic hit, nilikuwa that day against 3.2. So nikakuwa introduced kwa kitu inaitwa virtual betting. Virtual betting ni design ya gambling, lakini nikaamba iko predetermined, ni kitu ambacho inajulikana outcome zake. Ni kama computer. You just bet and then the computer ina predict outcome. Katoka kwa gambling ya kawaida ambao I used to gamble weekend to weekend. Ile nilijoin virtual nikaanza kubet kila siku kwa sababu hiyo ni ya 1 minute. 1 minute to gain money, 1 minute money pesa inaenda. That night nikakuliwa around 1000. Nilikuwa mara 27 bob. And then after hapo nikakuja nikaanza kusema acha nikimbize pesa yangu ambayo imeenda nirudishe. Sasa ndio nikaanza kuasa, ikakuwa mazoea. Nikaanza nafanya often, nikaanza nacheza kama kila siku. Nikipata pesa, niko na pesa, nacheza virtual. And then I used to have laptop, simu na some stuff kwa nyumba. And then nikafika some point nikawa sasa niko so much addicted to betting. Acha niseme addicted. Nikawa napeleka vitu zangu kwa Rehani, napatiwa pesa Shylock. Napatiwa pesa, then nakuja na gamble.
And the habit became an addiction, a repeated dig into the bottomless pit of striking and losing cash. Being a student, he had to be crafty to find more money for betting.
Nikaa tunaendelea kubet, napeleka vitu. And then nilikuwa ile idea ya kwamba ukinipatia pesa, kama umenipatia pesa ngapi kesho morning, nitakuwa nimekurudisha pesa yako. So hiyo kitu ikawa imeniharibu kichwa vibaya sana. Nikawa nacheza na pesa za watu sana tu. And then nikafika some point nikawa nadegwa sana tu. Nilikuwa madeni mingi sana.
His saving grace came when he decided to open up about his gambling addiction and got help from counseling. Dr. Fabio, a psychology lecturer at Kenyatta University, is familiar with such cases of students gambling, and according to his research, the problem is deeper than you think.
So I've been involved in research in gambling for the past 4 years or so, and I've been mainly focused among university students, where I've been trying to find out the prevalence of gambling and especially in terms of the disorder, because not everyone who gambles becomes an addicted gambler, which in technical terms we call gambling disorder.
The patterns that we're seeing are more, it's gambling typically in place of work. So what we're seeing is that there's this kind of culture that gambling is a way to make money, which it's not.
Dr. Fabio is a strong believer that the problem can be solved with similar ways it was created, where he recommends non-pharmacological or non-medical means of handling a gambling addict.
The key issues that I focused on is developing an intervention for these students who are addicted to gambling to try as much as possible to overcome their addiction by either managing their frequency, because that was a key indicator of gambling. So if you gamble very often, then it means you're addicted. Yes, you have issues. So what we did, one of the key issues is key interventions. Is one person needs to understand that gambling is not a source of earning income. It should be taken as a recreation activity. Self-exclusion, especially for someone who feels like he's gambling getting out of hand, he needs to have that chance of excluding himself, calling the gambling companies and telling them, block my number, because gambling is largely done over the mobile phone.
While they reiterate that gambling is not in itself bad, it's the hope of Jack and Dr. Fabio that addictive tendencies may be controlled because the effects are adverse. Like Patrick, who has debts to pay, a reputation to maintain, and most of all, a mental health to keep.
Kama kitu nimeamua ni hivi nimeacha, acha basi niache nikiachaga. Hata kama kutakuja age gani ya kunifanya ni gamble, sitaki.
For the Innovator this week on KTN News, I'm Brian George Otieno.
Very transforming innovation there. Thank you, Brian, for that report. Well, the odds were against Adu Achul. Her family members were killed in present-day South Sudan when she was just a child, and she grew up in Kenya's Dadaab refugee camp. Achul worked hard to become an entrepreneur and activist, and now